Hey everyone, Blaine is 009, and this is another anime request review, and that is of Death Parade. Now, this request review goes out to Frekat, by the way. I'll just start out by saying that Death Parade has to be one of the most unique and interesting anime I've seen in quite some time. I find it actually, that sounds kind of derogatory, but I mean that in the most positive nature. It's an amazing anime that I can't say it enough that it really is something truly unique, and I'm going to explain why in a couple seconds. Death Parade's main story is a little hard to kind of explain, so I'm going to try my best here, but without spoiling anything, because it is kind of an easy show to spoil. But the concept is that two people are sent to a bar, and when they're in the bar, they meet Decim, who's the arbiter, he considers himself as, and his assistant. And Decim's job as the arbiter is to judge people. And this bar is not a real per se bar, but more so a form of purgatory, I want to say, where these people are sent to play a game against each other. And what happens then is that they are judged via how they act in the game. And what I mean by that is, for example, in the first episode, this is going to spoil a lot of the first episode, but I think it's the best way of explaining the kind of concepts that you'll see from the story beginning part. The two players are forced to go up to the bar, and when they go there, they end up having to play darts, where it's like any other game of darts where, you have to go from 500 points to the lowest amount within several darts. Whoever has the lowest amount wins. The catch is the dartboard itself is actually inside organs. And what I mean by that is each side represents the other opposing player's side and their organs. So when one player throws at a specific spot of the dartboard, he hits either the lungs or the eyes or the heart, etc., etc. And that person feels that organ get hit with a force like a dart being thrown into it. And what this causes is, it sounds kind of hostile-esque, but what it actually is causing is it's causing the other player to experience emotions that are very tragic and strong, and very strong fears. And what that causes even further is it shows what their true soul is. It shows how they are as a person beyond how they were in their life, but more so how they are now in that moment. And for the first half of the series, I want to say that is the same kind of trend it will follow. It will follow people getting sent up there to be judged. They'll either be sent into reincarnation, where they get to resent to Earth and get to relive a life, or they get sent into what's called the Void, which they'll explain what that is later, and I won't spoil it, but I think that's a very interesting and kind of creepy concept in itself. Then I want to say that Death Parade does a almost 360, in that the later half of the series, there's only 12 episodes, mind you, but the later half of the series actually tends to start focusing not on the games or the players, but more so the main characters, thus being Decim and his assistant. We find out more about how they feel about these judgments, how the system works a little more, and who the assistant is, because you don't know her name and you don't really know her story until later on. And I think that is one of Death Parade's biggest strengths and biggest weaknesses. The strength is that the plot and the characters are very, very good. I honest to God, Decim is a character who, by all natures, is very placid and almost very robotic-like. And yet, he's still very subtle, and he talks very wise. And what I mean by that is that he feels like a person, even though he's supposed to represent what a being without human emotions is supposed to be. I think that's a very interesting way of doing a character like that. It's almost like the concept that robots have feelings more so, or puppets have feelings. And I think it really does very well for the show, showing how his character kind of evolves from just the simple robotic-like person to an actual, maybe pseudo-human. But the biggest weakness of the show is that a lot of the concepts in Death Parade are never fully explained. And I almost kind of think of Dark Souls, if you've ever played that game series, where Dark Souls' lore and characters are explained more so in the game, and they're left up to the players to kind of piece together individual moments and parts of the story to make a bigger, grander scheme. And Death Parade does that in many ways, where a lot of the stuff is not explained. Like, why is it that these people are the ones that are judging rather than some omnipotent being? You know, they talk about God, but at one point they also say God is not currently available. What do they mean by that? Do they mean that, you know, God is gone, or he's allowed someone else to take his place? And that's one thing that I think I have an issue with the show, is that they never fully grasp anything that is thrown into the show. A lot of the concepts and the ideals are left to the viewer to kind of piece together and format their own, you know, conclusions. You know, maybe God is not represented here, or maybe he's allowed a second party to do his judging for people. That could be it, but again, you'll never find out. And the arbiters, you'll never fully explain what they are either. You'll understand that they are creatures without human souls, but at the same time they can express human emotions, which it's Death Parade's biggest weakness, is that a lot of the plot falters because things are not fully explained. Now, don't get me wrong, you know, I'm going to take points away from that, but at the same time, if what they were going for was that whole kind of piece your own story or piece your own concepts together, they did it very well. I mean, well enough at least that on its own season, you could create a lot of conjecture and thoughts on what's happening in Death Parade's story. You know, you can think of what these creatures are, what these people are doing, why these people have to be forced to be judged in the way they are. And I think that's interesting. I liked it. It's a short show. It's 12 episodes long. From what I heard, there's no sequel in plan, but there might be if you know, it gets more popular. I watched both the English dub and the Japanese dub to see how the differences were, and I'll tell you, the English dub, I think, actually wins over the Japanese dub in this case. I think it was a little better to follow it in English rather than Japanese, but, you know, to each his own. You know, some people do like subtitles over dub, which is completely fine. But overall, if I was to have to rate Death Parade from an A through an F, I would say solid A minus. I know that I said the weaknesses were the plot and all that concept, but again, Death Parade is so unique and so different and so interesting that I feel it's actually done something that most anime is afraid to do, and that I say it deals with life and death being the main concept. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of anime that deals with life or death in their stories, but Death Parade doesn't shy away from it. It stays with the concept of life and death. It shows what people are willing to do if they think they can live, and what people are willing to do to get ahead of someone else. And I think that's amazing. I think it does it very well. And the ending last few episodes were amazing. I left Death Parade thinking about life, and I was actually, honest to God, wondering, you know, how I could further my own life, and, you know, if I've been doing the right stuff so far. And I think that's what most people are going to get away from the show, is something that you're going to actually think about the show further on. So yeah, I'll say it right now, watch Death Parade. It's an amazing show. I had no issues watching 12 episodes in less than a few days time period. I flew through the show and did not regret a single time. But anyways, I'm sorry for the longer review, guys. Note that most of the time Anime Request reviews will be a little longer, because I am trying to really fully review something for the actual person. I want them to, you know, like it. For example, again, this is Frekat. This is for you, man. I want them to get the most out of these reviews, especially because I'm doing them specifically for people. You know, I mean, everyone gets to watch it, of course, but it's a request review. You're requesting me to review something specifically. I want to give you the best I can. Anyways, guys, until our paths cross again in the next review, I will be trying to do more of these, but again, it's a little hard because these I have to either... I try to rewatch a show, or at least watch a show that's requested of me, and a lot of the stuff I've already reviewed is stuff I've seen recently, or I've seen within the last, you know, several years. So if these take a little longer to get out to you, I apologize, but I'll try to speed them up a little bit. Anyways, guys, I continue on posting the comments requests. I will gladly take them. I don't care if it's from the same person. I'll take 2 or 3 from the same person. Anyways, guys, till next time, have a good one.